Today it's time to take another look at the voter registration changes from the previous month across a bunch of different states. And this is all from Michael Prusser, who is associated with Decision Desk, and this is all on his Twitter/X. Different states are going to report their numbers at different times, and some states have automatic voter registration. That's another thing to keep in mind as you look through these changes. Let's get right into the key battleground of Pennsylvania. We can see this is for October. In 2020, Biden won the state by 1.17. The changes from September are the Republican Party registrations have gone up almost 61,000. The Democratic Party is almost 36,000. And other or the unaffiliateds are going to be at almost 33,000. Now the total party registration here is at just under 9 million. And the advantage for the Democratic Party is at about 325,000. Now in the bottom, you can compare that to November of 2022. There, the advantage for the Democrats was at almost 550,000. So that's a significant decline. And in the last presidential election in November of 2020, the advantage for the Dems was at over 685,000. So that is a lot of shift in only a few years. Some of that is obviously going to be new voters. Some of that is going to be genuine party switching. It could be from back in the primaries, or it could be genuine movement. And it also could be the case that there's a lot of legacy or ancestral Democrats. Maybe they've already voted Republican for a long time. They just finally got around to updating their registration. It all depends on how you want to look at it, but just based on these numbers, that is a clear advantage for the GOP. Let's go on to another battleground. We've got North Carolina. It's true there was a hurricane there recently. It's unclear what the fallout is going to be, but the changes from September are the Republicans have gone up at 19,000, Democrats 11,000. Other is at 45,000. The advantage for the Dems is 120,000. That's less than half of what it was 2 years ago, where it was at 276,000. 4 years ago, it was at 391. So another pretty big shift there for the Republicans. Is that going to translate into an advantage at the ballot box? I think that's going to remain to be seen. How about Nevada? This is a close one. Republicans up almost 9,100. Democrats up 8,800. But other is up over 12,000. The advantage for the Democrats is a slim 18,900. That's down from 52,000 in November of 2022 and down from 86,000 4 years ago. How about the secondary tier swing state of New Hampshire? These are changes going back from July. Here, Democrats had the advantage. Republicans gained 7,200. Democrats almost 11,000. Other actually went down over 13,000. I would again suspect some of that is going to be from party switches from the primaries. Overall, Republicans have an advantage of 39,000. And that's actually flipped from a couple of years ago where Democrats had the advantage of almost 5K. In the last presidential election, Democrats were over 14,000. Here's another former swing state. It's Iowa. From September, Republicans gained 3,600. Democrats 2,600. Other 4,400. GOP advantage is 134,000. That's up from 64 back in November of 2022 and up from 22,000 in the last presidential election. A lot of states to get through. Let's move on to Florida. Here, Republicans have gained over 60K. Democrats 36K. Other is up almost 49. The overall advantage for the Republicans, 1,047,000. A couple of years ago, it was over 300,000, and that has flipped from November of 2020, where Democrats had the advantage of 134,000. In this state, that is a ton of movement in only a few years toward the Republicans. It'll be very interesting to see if that red wave, which did show up in the midterms, comes back again in this presidential election. About New Mexico, Republicans have gained a 4,300, Democrats 2,800, other is at 2,700. Advantage for the Dems is 158,000. That's down from almost 178,000 a couple of years ago. In the last presidential election, the Dems were up 185,000. So it's a blue state, but a little bit of movement toward the Republicans there. Let's go on to the Garden State. We've got New Jersey. Here, Republicans again gained 8,100, Democrats 4,500. Other is the clear winner here, over 25K. The Dem advantage here is 917,000. That's down from a couple of years ago, where it was 1,068,000. In the last presidential election, it was just a little bit bluer than that at 1,079,000. How about a solid red state? We've got Kentucky. Republicans here have gained over 14,000. Democrats just 400. Other is at 4,400. Republicans here have an advantage of 141,000. That's up from 22K a couple of years ago. In the last presidential election, Democrats had the advantage of over 100,000. That's another clear example of a state having a lot of legacy Democrats. Even though they've had the advantage up until very recently in terms of party registration, the state has long been known as a Republican stronghold on a federal level. Another super red state, Oklahoma. Republicans here gained over 24,000 since September. Democrats actually lost registration here. They went down 1,200. Other is up 8,600. 600. The GOP advantage here is over 600K. That's up from 495 a couple of years ago. 4 years ago, it was at about 389,000. So this super red state got even redder. We've got another red state, South Dakota. Republicans gained 2,600. Democrats 748. Other 1,900. Republican advantage is 167,000. That's up from a couple of years ago, where it was at 145. 4 years ago, it was at 118. Let's check out a blue state. We've got Delaware. Here, Republicans gained over 1,000. Democrats, though, outnumber the Republicans at over 1,700. Other is between the two at 1,200. The advantage here for the Dems is 146,000. That's down very slightly from a couple of years ago, where it was at 152,000. And it's almost identical to where it was 4 years ago, where it was at 147,000. So a lot of stagnation here in Delaware. Let's go back to the Republicans. We've got Louisiana. The GOP went up 8,600 here. The Democrats went up 3,300. Other is up 67. The Dem advantage here is clearly shrinking. It's down to 89,000. In the midterms, it was at 186,000. In the last presidential election, it was at 249,000. So that state is poised to flip at some point in the not too distant future. Arguably, the reddest state out there is going to be West Virginia. This one had the Republicans gaining 4,600. Democrats basically flat, but they went down 57. Not 5,700, just 57. Other is up 1,900. The advantage for the GOP here is 139,000. That's close to double what it was a couple of years ago at 75,000. 4 years ago, it was actually Democrats that had the party registration advantage here when they were at 8,500. Next, yet another red state here. We've got Wyoming. Republicans up 2,100. Democrats under 1,000. Other just over 1,000. Republican advantage 162,000. That is actually down from a couple of years ago where it was at 198,000, but it's up from where it was in November of 2020 when it was at 138,000. Let's do Nebraska. We've got Republicans up 4,600. Democrats up 3,100. Other is up 1,300. The GOP advantage here is 280,000. That is a little bit higher than 261,000 in the last midterms and 236,000 in the last presidential election. We've got a blue state. We've got Oregon. Republicans gained 6,500. Democrats a lot more than that at 10,700. Other is up almost 9,500. The Democrat advantage here is 275,000. That's down slightly from 285,000 in the last midterms and 297,000 in the last presidential election. Next, we've got the former swing state of Colorado. Here, Republicans up 8,800. Democrats more than that at 14,000. Other, though, is the winner at 23,800. Dem advantage is 111,000. That's down slightly from 121,000 in the midterms, and it's up from an even 100,000 in the last presidential. Another blue state is going to be Connecticut. Republicans here actually lost some support. They're down 2,800. Democrats gained 2,100. Other is up 2,600. The Dem advantage is 336,000. It's a small reduction from the midterms, where it was at just under 350,000. In the last presidential, it was at 370,000. In the state of Alaska, which has some unusual party affiliation, Republicans gained over 1,000. Democrats gained 600. Other went up almost 700. Republican advantage is 71,000. It's a tiny increase from a couple of years ago, where it was at 67,700, and that's almost identical to 2 years prior in the last presidential election, where it was at 67,000. In the old line state, Maryland, we've got the GOP gaining 6,300. Democrats gained a lot more at 12,000. Other is at 8,500. Advantage for the Dems is 1,210,000. It's down just a bit from the last midterms, where it was at 1,243,000. In the last presidential election, it was at almost 1,247,000. So a huge Dem advantage in this state. It doesn't look like that's going to be changing anytime soon. A few more of these. We've got Kansas. Republicans up 6,200. Democrats 3,500. Other 6,500. Republican advantage 385,000. That's an increase from 360,000 in the last midterms, and that's pretty much identical to where it was in November of 2020. Next, we've got Idaho. Republicans cleared 10,000 here. Democrats 4,200. Other 7,900. Republican advantage is a healthy 483,000. That's an increase from 449,000 in the midterms and 390,000 in the last presidential election. And the last state is going to be Utah. Republicans here again cleared 10,400. Democrats 6,100. Other had more than the Democrats at 6,400. The GOP advantage is 675,000. It's a bit of an increase from the midterms at 646,000, and in the last presidential it was at 620,000. So this red state looks like it's still getting even redder. So that's a good chunk of red and blue states from all over the country. For the most part, the advantage the Democrats have has been shrinking. There's a couple of states where they did better than the GOP, but overall the movement, at least in terms of party affiliation, affiliation is toward the right. Now, party affiliation is far from everything. That does not tell you how these people are going to vote. But if you're looking for some bragging rights, you're always going to want to see your party gaining voters. There's a few battleground states that did not have the data available, but from all this, you might be able to draw your own conclusions. So that's it. We'll see if these changes mean anything for the upcoming election, or how the next update might look, which should cover the weeks leading up until Election Day. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of this data? Do you think it's entirely meaningless? Because as I said, voter registration does not indicate who's voting for who. Or do you think this is a clear positive sign for the Republicans? Which states are you most surprised by? Which other states are you hoping to take a look at? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.